Hello and welcome back to KSP POV, where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. Yes, as the title tells, sadly this will be the conclusionary episode of this season, due to circumstances which we will talk about a little bit later in the episode once we're actually in flight and doing stuff. When we have some time to speak, we're going to talk about that. But for now, we have a very important undertaking that we have one final mission to take care of. And that is a rescue mission, the mother of all rescue missions, because we have a bus full of students floating out there in space with no ability of getting home, and we need to send them a rescue mission if it's the last thing we do. Let's do this. And here we are in the cockpit. Now that was kind of a hastily built craft. There are a lot of things missing on this thing that in hindsight, would have done me better. I don't even have a reaction wheel on this, so this is going to be a boat to turn around in space. It was meant to be a little bit more nimble, but I was frustrated in the fact that I knew that this is going to be the last episode of the series. And I wanted to make sure that I could get this mission done. Again, if it's the last thing we do, because it probably will be. And so I kind of rushed the build a little bit. I made the basic setup of all the rockets that we've made up until this point with the lifting vehicle the way that it is. But I could have taken a little bit more time and finessed it, but it'll serve its function. And that's kind of all we need here. I'm going to let you know that this mission could have gone many different ways, and some of them a little more efficient than others, and we take one of those ways, and we'll figure out when we get there if it's the right way or not. But once again, we're having a little bit of a glitch with the Holcam's VDS, where it pretends like the camera is not attached to the rocket as we watch the rocket fly up, and then eventually it reattaches. We put the camera facing upwards on this one because the docking port is not a docking port, it's a claw, and therefore it doesn't have a camera of its own that we can link into like the docking port alignment indicator mod has. Here we are, having our gravity turn. We are using M.A.C.H to do guided ascent. We're going to also use M.A.C.H and the Alcor pod to do our rendezvousing as well. And as far as quote-unquote docking, you know, grabbing the claw against the ship, we're just going to do it the good old-fashioned way of point at it and fire. Hopefully we don't rip into it too much. So now we are reaching the cloud layer. Always a nice sign, nice peaceful Peaceful, relaxing ascent. I don't know if you can call several G's relaxing, but with 5.86, 5.95, 6 G's. That's what we pulled. Nice and relaxing. Getting a little bit of heating as we come up through the atmosphere. Again, as I said, I could have designed this a little better. I could have put it in a fairing. You know, I didn't have any reason why I didn't put it in a fairing. I just this is just what happens when you get frustrated with this. Another little secret, a little peek behind the curtain. This entire mission took over. I have 5 different recordings of it, minimum half an hour sessions, sometimes longer, because the game kept crashing on me, and I would have to start back from the last saved point, and it was very frustrating. This save file has become pretty unstable, which is, I guess, now would be a good time as any to get into it, but as we bring ourselves up to our Apple app system and eventually start circularizing. Oh, I didn't mention while we were doing it, I had to spin myself to keep the heat from blowing up the capsule. We were in a slight danger of that, but anyways, this save file has plenty of mods on it. If you check out in the description below, there's a Google Doc that has the list of all of our mods in here. It's got quite a few added parts to it. It's got a lot of visual mods to this. We're running Parallax, we're running Scatterer, Copernicus, Black Racks, just quite a few visual mods added to this, and so it has made things a little bit slower than I would like, and everything starts to take a lot longer and crashes become more prevalent. In the last episode of KSP POV, we tried to attach a solar array ARM communications thing to our space station, and was promptly greeted by the Kraken as it ripped apart and everything. That was unfortunate and not a good sign. We then recorded another episode, which would be the one that was in between the last one that you saw and this one right here. We decided not to use the footage of it, but we took that very space station and sent it to the moon, to the Mun, excuse me, to complete that contract for that. Just dropping back into the visuals. Right now we're going to be circularizing our orbit. So yeah, so we decided to take it to the Mun and try to fulfill that contract. Turns out that contract ended up expiring while we were getting ourselves or captured by the Mun. Like, it was the worst timing. We were capturing the Mun and it expired. And then so I'm like, well, might as well just utilize it as a spaceship, and so we decided to send our lander capsule down to the surface. So we get our Kerbals into our lander capsule, and we real fast, jumping back to this, we are now selecting the Space Camp bus, and we're going to be targeting it and auto rendezvousing, and we're basically just going to let M.A.C.H handle the situation. So anyways, we get the lander and we get our Kerbals into it, and we're going at like 5 frames per second at this point, because it's rendering all the stuff from the Mun as well as the many parts from the space station. Part of the lander itself was actually glitched out. It was one of those ones where the frame is stretched out really far into a polygon shape, and so we were looking at it, we were like, alright, we'll just work around it. We'll try to just ignore that glitch and just act like it didn't happen. And so we get our lander out, and then we disconnect it, and we're trying to fire to get our maneuver node activated and everything, and there's no power. And I'm thinking, oh, we don't have any battery, how's that possible? But nope, it's just from our dang it mod, which means that failures can happen on our rockets, and so our cryo tank leaked all of our liquid fuel out into space, so we had no fuel in the tanks. We managed to use our RCS to get back to the space station to dock, but when we docked, we also started getting Kraken problems where it was shaking and everything. And it was at that point when everything crashed, and I looked at my recording, and it had gone on for far too long. And I sighed, and I said, this is where I think I might have to end this series, and refocus on things and start anew. So this is going to be the conclusion of POV, KSP POV Season 2. We will be continuing escaping Kerbal. I'll get to that in just a second. But as far as POV2 goes, I think we reached a good point. We did more than we did in the previous season. And the only thing that we have left to do now is actually go interplanetary, because we collected all the Mid-Miss science and the Mun science, and now we should be setting our sights on Duna or Eve or something like that. However, that is the basis of escaping Kerbal. Was the idea is we're going to go interplanetary, we're going to go visit Duna. So I was kind of holding off on doing that in this series. Like, that's the whole reason why we started building a space station, was to come up with something else to create while we were waiting for the opportunity for our turn, so to speak, to go interplanetary. We needed to do it in escaping Kerbal first. So I feel like it's a logical end, since we still haven't achieved that goal in the other series, to kind of focus on that series and let that series flourish in the way that it needs to in its goals. Good news on that front. What we ended up doing was we whittled down our mods and got rid of a lot of our visual mods. We got rid of parallax, so no more collisions with our objects, sadly. Love that factor, but so we got rid of parallax, got rid of scatter, Copernicus, all that stuff. We kept black racks, volumetric clouds, because of course. We also whittled down, I think we got rid of a couple just peripheral quality of life mods. And then the other thing is that we got rid of remote tech. I have played with remote tech since I've started modding Kerbal Space Program. It has always been part of my load order, and I kind of didn't know what to do with myself after I removed it. Everything was so much more simple. I launched a mission that never went more smoothly in my entire time playing this, and it was frustrating, but it was kind of a relief to see something kind of go right, and to kind of push forward towards our goal. So I recorded an episode of Escaping Kerbal. The next one that's going to come out is going to deal with we put another satellite network in space because we lost our entire network due to removing remote tech. So all those satellites that we made, they're gone. So we need to buff that out, and then once we do that, we are going to turn our eyes on Duna, and we are going to be pushing forward for that goal. We are going to be racing forward, but we'll get into that on there. But the reason why I decided to remove remote tech is because of the other little Kerbal announcement on our series, is that we are going to be retrying Realism Overhaul, Real Solar System, and Realistic Progression 1, RP1. And we are going to be continuing it as a series, especially now that there has been an update. This update is nothing new. However, it is the newest version of RP1, which is quite different than when we played it last on the series. And so I'm very excited to get into it. I actually kind of enjoy the update to it. I think it adds a lot more structure, which is very important in this because it can kind of guide the player along a little bit better, and a little bit more historically speaking, in a sense. I mean, nothing like choosing your own administration to really break the immersion of history, but anyways, so the fact we're going to be playing Realism Overhaul in this, and so we're going to have enough time to have realistic mods. We're going to have plenty of time to try to get, you know, authentic communications, because that's the most authentic of communications that you can get when it comes to Kerbal. So I decided to take a break on that, allow ourselves to ease up on our realism mods and get rid of remote tech. We are going to see about getting rid of TAC life support, because that's also another feature that maybe we don't necessarily need to have put on us, and that will allow us to actually do some more exploring. Oh, jumping back into it, I had to time warp because we still had 19 days left of Space Camp. We couldn't end Space Camp early just because we lost all of our fuel. So just a little bit more about the updates, and then we're going to get back into this, because right now we are looking towards bringing this home. We're doing it in a very inefficient way because, as you see, we are attached to the very top of the rocket, and we are about to learn a very valuable lesson about center of mass. But lastly, what I'm going to say is, so we are going to be ending KSP POV, we're going to be continuing escaping Kerbal, and we're going to be relaunching RP1. We are also, as you may have noticed, going to be continuing Drift. Very much enjoying that game, and I want that to be alongside the Kerbal that is going along. But I've posted a lot of Drift recently just because there's been a lot going on with the game. There's been new updates and all that stuff. But I wanted to let you know that I will be getting back into Kerbal. So if Drift isn't your thing, just, you know, hold on. We'll be getting back into KSP. But anyways, back to the video. That's kind of all the updates that I have for now. Just, you know, stay tuned, look forward to it, and let me know in the comments your thoughts on what you want to see. But anyways, here we are. We're trying to plot our maneuver to land as close to the KSC as possible. You know, no need to have our students have to hitch a ride just to get back to their cars. So we plotted our maneuver into the flight computer. That's remote text flight computer. And we just kind of view the world from our little space and get ready to come on home. So once again, didn't put a reaction wheel in the main body, and there's no reaction wheel on the Space Camp bus, so we are just ever so slowly tipping forward. A lot of the footage you're going to see is sped up a lot, so if it looks like we're going slowly as we're tipping, trying to get to the maneuver node, about 5 times slower than that. And on top of that, I was running at a very low frame rate, so it was just a nightmare to get this thing home. But suddenly my ship starts flipping and spinning in space, and because I had it programmed in a flight computer, I wasn't able to turn off the engine immediately. I did a complete 180-degree flip and basically went nowhere with my burn. And that is because I am attached way too high to the center of mass. I should be attached more around the middle, and then I can actually push this in the way that I want to push it. However, I was impatient, I was inefficient, and I was frustrated. And frustrated while playing KSP can lead to a lot of poor decisions. So I decided I'm not going to realign myself. I didn't have any RCS thrusters on it, so it was going to be even more of a pain. I also didn't have any forward-facing lights to my camera, so even though I had a camera pointed towards the claw, I didn't have any way of really seeing what I was looking at. So, all in all, a lot of forethought and a little bit of patience could have made this mission go a little bit better. But that doesn't mean that we can't try. So we are burning and then allowing ourselves to drift slowly off, and then we stop and we use time warp to kill our momentum, as well as we use physics warp to bring our heading back to our maneuver node, and just rinse and repeat. We're using some of the RCS that the Space Camp bus has to kind of push us forward a little bit, but it's still just a tug. But as you can see in the left-hand side of the screen, our periapsis is dropping. We are now at 61 kilometers periapsis, so we are within the atmosphere. We will be coming home. It's just a matter of how long and where. And we get ourselves to about 39 kilometers, and that is going to be enough for us to get a safe descent back. Land on the first try, and not mess around tumbling through the atmosphere. Because after all, there's 14 Kerbals that entrusted us with their lives, and 3 of whom will actually come to work for us. Sad to say, the company will be shutting down shortly after their arrival, but they will have the experience nonetheless. So now I have to be very, very careful about my staging and what I choose to do next. So we took control of the Space Camp bus, and we pointed it retrograde. And so now what we are going to do, what we probably should have done from the beginning, is fuel it up with some of the fuel from the deorbiter. And we are going to quickly burn it off as soon as we get it. This holds a little bit better than the other one did, but it too is going to flip because, once again, the center of mass is off. Then we detach the claw, and we still have a little bit of fuel left in our tank. It is rapidly dropping though, because we still have that leak. And we're just going to burn everything that we've got. Try to get as close to home as possible. And while we would have liked to land on Werner's doorstep, at least we're going to be coming in off the coast. So here I am forgetting that we're in POV apparently. If I had FRMS installed, then I would be able to just do these both descents at the same time. However, we don't have that mod, so we are going to have to bring this one back up into orbit real fast. And by real fast, I mean real fast, because we are on a suborbital trajectory. Let's kick the engine back on, and we just fire prograde. It's not the best spot, but we get ourselves to 73 kilometers, which is enough to keep from falling back into the atmosphere. So then we quickly switch back to the Space Camp bus, and then take control of the pilot's seat. So now we have lost our lower stage. We are nothing but a heat shield and a capsule. And we are on our way home. So we're going to lock retrograde with our SAS. And we're going to time warp our way into the atmosphere. And once the time warp stops, we know that we hit the atmosphere, and we are going to be coming in hot. So our SAS takes over and points us retrograde. And we have a fairly large heat shield. I believe this is a 2.5 meter, and it does cover the whole of the craft, so we should have no problems of coverage. And since we are not in the Alcor pod, the top pod is the Mach 3 command pod, which has a better heat rating. The Alcor just loves to explode in atmosphere. It does not like the heat. But this craft, this should handle it. So there we go. We start to see the effects as we hit about 40 some odd kilometers. But as you see here from where I wiggled the mouse, the heat gauges are still very low. And means that we don't really have much to worry about. Not yet, at least. But of course, since we can't see the heat gauge for the lower sections, that lack of a cause for concern is short-lived. Because until we see that heat diminish and disappear, we are always on the verge of explosions. And there we have it. We are made it safely through the atmosphere. All that is left is the hope that the designers back when they made this rocket weren't as much of a hurry as they were when they created the deorbiter. And hopefully they programmed the parachutes with the right parameters that can bring these Kerbals home safely. We're rapidly approaching the cloud layer. The parachutes have yet to deploy. And we fire the stage, even though they were set to auto-deploy. We fire them a little bit early, because once again, this is the mother of all rescue missions. We cannot lose our Kerbals between the atmosphere and the ocean. That is not how we're going to do things. Looking out the window at the clouds. Looking at our fellow Kerbalnauts. Looking at the screens and the instruments one last time. Who knows? We may do some one-off POV missions. I would kind of like to do a more advanced mission in the tin can, the one that we used in the very beginning of the series. We only used it for a little bit, and then we unlocked the Mach 1 command pod, and that one was a huge step in advance in technology that we just jumped on board that, and we didn't revisit the tin can at all. And So I think I would like to maybe run a couple more missions in that. So maybe I'll do, if any of y'all are interested, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll push it up on the priorities list. But maybe I'll do a one-off POV where we do a mission somewhere with that. And with that, we have safely reached a descent speed that we can guarantee that we will survive from. The news is announced to all the Kerbals aboard that they are coming home, and very soon the army and the KSC engineers will be out to rescue them and take them home. And a few of them will have a new place of employment at the end of this. Maybe they'll be hired on in the time traveler's world of RP1 back in 1951. Maybe they'll be taken over at the Legion Space Agency and finally get to send a probe to Duna, or maybe become the first Kerbal on the surface of Duna. Who knows? But the future is bright for these Kerbals. And with that, that's where I'm going to leave the end of this episode and the end of this series. We may be back with KSP POV3. We're not sure. Stick around. Let us know. If you like this, if you like the series, if you like my channel, please let me know by leaving a comment. Drop me a like. Whatever you want to do, it all helps out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.